remote reservoir. And customer had a broken hose right there, so we just pretty much just tear it apart and replace the hose and whatever else he needs. Say if he's got bad seals in there, we replace that.
Okay.
I hate when they do this.
Wow, man.
I don't know why they just don't let the air out, but right.
So this is something fairly common. Hoses getting broken. This particular shock, we mount it with the clamp on it. But as you can see with most of these 2.0 shocks that we sell, excuse me, in the box is the rubber block and the hose clamp. So whoever installs it on the vehicle decides where the reservoir gets mounted. And if they mount the reservoir in the wrong spot, then as the suspension cycles, then potentially the reservoir or maybe the hose will run into something. And so broken hoses are a fairly common thing for us to be replacing. And it's just because they didn't install it properly and get the hose pointing the right direction. I'm not sure why this particular model did that, but it's very common for us to receive a shock with the rubber clamp and the hose clamp attached to it, and then a broken hose. And these hoses don't burst, they don't break. The only way that they get damaged is somebody kinks them or they install it improperly and the hose gets damaged out there. Very, very seldom does something like this happen from the factory. And if it does, when it's brand new, the shock in the box, it'll be covered in oil. So it's very obvious that, you know, that one was our fault or it got damaged in shipping, something along those lines. But the majority of the time, the reason is because the customer did not install the reservoir and attach it properly to the shock, and then it ran into something as the suspension gets cycled. So
I usually have to fix like 2 to 3 a day on these hoses.
Yeah, it's the most common.
The most common.
The most common damage is a broken hose. And so step number 1, when there's still pressure in the shock, is to loosen the set screw and take the bearing cap off.
Okay.
Because the bearing housing is what we call it. Also the rod guide is like the more common term for this part right here. This part floats. So without pressure in the shock, when you go to spin this, it'll spin that as well. So it needs pressure to hold this steady so you can unscrew that.
Okay.
So first step is that, and I'll set you up with quite a bit of literature with rebuild instructions and exploded views and all that good stuff. It'll just take me a little while to print it all out, but I'll give you quite a bit of info to take with you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem. So yeah, step 1 is with pressure in the shock, loosen this. And then the next step is to take the pressure out of the shock. And so yeah, you can keep going.
Okay. This is the way I usually do it.
This is just a normal tire valve puller. It's the same thread.
Okay.
So you just want to be pretty careful that these brass valves, they are somewhat soft. So with this thing on here, if you were to try to bend it, it'll break.
Okay.
So you just want to be careful about pulling straight up on this part.
These ones are better.
This is a custom one that we made. Just take one of our existing parts floating around, and our machinist makes this little
professional
insert
one.
and puts it in there. So this, you're much less likely to break the valve with this one.
Special tools.
Yeah. One of the many special tools, but this does the trick. This is what I have in my garage at home, and it works just fine.
Yeah, you just put you on the bearing so you can get to the snap ring once you get all that out.
Yeah, once you depressurize the reservoir, then typically what you do is you'll take this and just with a couple of threads on, smack it, and and now you can push this rod, the bearing housing down, and now you can get this ring out. So it's pretty simple. If you just take the open ends and you push them down, the back edge will pop out. So show them one more time.
Move that back in.
Okay.
So quick, simple, easy.
It helps us spin it.
If you spin it and kind of rock it back and forth, it'll help it.
Usually.
And then one of the other little tricks, here, hold on. This is another one of the very common tools that we use. If you just heat this up a little bit, so heating it up a little bit will get the steel body to expand just slightly, and it also heats up that O-ring just a little bit, so it's softer. So it's a little bit easier. So now it should come out a little bit easier.
Yeah, like butter.
You'll probably want to pull a drawing for that guy.
Okay.
And just double check where that hose goes and everything.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that this fitting needs to be more at like a 45.
45.
I think so.
I think you're right.
That's probably what's wrong with it. And so all the shocks are engraved, right? So the last 3 digits is always the part number of the shock. So here, I'll be right back.
All shocks are pretty much the same. Like the way you take them apart and the way you put them back together. Depending on if it has a reservoir or emulsion. And this is a CD adjuster. Or adjusts oil and how much compression or...
Yeah, I own a couple of
Oh,
them.
these kind of? Oh, okay, cool. So you're kind of...
In a Cherokee, in a XJ.
Yeah. Is there a stem top? Like maybe like this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, most of the Jeeps have these.
The adjuster is very useful.
Yeah. Oh,
So every single shock that we build has one of these engineering drawings. So 775,
The shaft.
775. So if you're ever working on a shock and you need to email me, if you want a drawing, if you want to know, the shaft length or which way the fittings need to point or whatever it might be, you can just email me and I can email these to you as many and whichever ones that you want. So I can tell right off the bat what happened and why this was a problem. So